Oh, my cat's so cute. I love her. Hello there. Welcome back to the Creative Spark. We're back with another 52 movies in 52 weeks. We're catching up on 4 today, and we're going to get right into it because, guys, I keep falling behind on these. I keep going, yep, we're back soon. 2 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by. I'm still watching the movies. I just don't have the time or really the mental energy to film the videos. But I set this goal for myself at the start of the year. I'm determined to get all the way to the end because in classic ADHD fashion, I have trouble finishing things. We get excited about things for a short period of time and then we get distracted or other things, we get distracted. Or we just lose the dopamine from it, which I haven't completely. I'm still determined to finish this. And the list is still ever growing. So when it comes into 2026, hopefully I will continue doing this and continue watching the movies. We'll just be a little bit less strict with the form, I think. And obviously I'm trying to watch movies from different genres and important pop culture references and all those sorts of things. But I think we'll just keep it to a new movie most weeks. And it can be any movie. New movies, old movies, any movies. But that's not the point. Let's jump into this week's theme. This week, we are going to be talking about female production teams. We're specifically looking at movies that have a female influence. So, all 4 of these films I'm going to talk about have had a female either directing, writing, or producing, or 2 of each, or all 3, and have a female lead. So, actually, these all have all been written by women or co-written by women. So, I really enjoyed 3 out of 4 of these movies. One is just not my type of movie, but it was obviously an important watch, and that is Zero Dark 30, which is by Catherine Bigelow, who was the first woman to ever win Best Director at the Oscars. She won that for The Hurt Locker, The Hurt Locker? Why does that not sound right in my brain? I'm pretty sure it's The Hurt Locker. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Moving on. But I chose to watch, I sort of flicked back and forth between Zero Dark 30 and The Hurt Locker because obviously she won for The Hurt Locker, but I honestly wasn't really in the mood to watch a post 9/11 war film, but I thought that it was important for the theme that we're going for. So I ended up watching Zero Dark 30 because it also had a female lead. So we will get into that. The other 3 were Past Lives by Celine Song. I have now realized that I am a big Celine Song stan. I love her style of directing, her style of writing. Obviously, I watched The Material I said earlier this year. I made a video about that because I loved it so much. I also really loved Past Lives. And then I watched Frances Ha, which I've been wanting to watch forever. It was co-written by Greta Gerwig and stars her. And I also watched Under the Tuscan Sun, which I know I just had an urge to put that on my list. I didn't realize that it was written and directed by a woman. And it also is, I thought it was like a romantic comedy type thing, which I guess it kind of falls into that theme, but that's not what it's about. It's not really about the main plot line isn't a romantic plot line, which I thought was it was actually such a good film. So, Past Lives. Past Lives was written and directed by Celine Song, and came out in 2023. It stars Greta Lee and Teo Yu, Teoyoo. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced you. But basically, it follows Nora and I'm gonna read my notes. Nora and Haesung, who follows, and let's just start that again. Okay, so let's just jump in. So we're going to go in order of my notes because that just seems tidy. So let's start with Past Lives. Past Lives was written and directed by Celine Song and is semi-autobiographical about her own life. Came out in 2023. It's an A24 film, which again, I'm finding that I'm really enjoying A24 movies. So films that are produced by that production company. I didn't really know who they were until maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe. And now that I'm seeing that production house pop up everywhere, and I'm actively trying to watch a lot of those films coming out because I'm like, I actually really like the direction they're going. But anyway, let's just jump into the film. So the film is about Nora, which is Greta Lee, and Haesung, Taeyu, and it follows two childhood friends who are deeply connected. But basically, it's set in Seoul and it is mostly a Korean language film. There is English in there too, but it is most of the dialogue is in Korean. Basically, the two childhood friends meet in South Korea, in Seoul, and at some point during their childhood, Nora's family immigrates to Canada and they lose touch. But it follows them over the course of 24 years and how they keep sort of coming back into each other's lives. There's like when they're teenagers at uni, or not teenagers, but young adults at university, they kind of reconnect when Facebook becomes a thing and they sort of start, I guess, a bit of a relationship, but it's all online because he can't come over, she can't go over there. And eventually they just decide that it's just too hard with the fact that they can't actually see each other in person. And so they sort of cut communication for a while. And then they end up going, like, eventually does come to America for business. And they end up seeing each other 24 years on. By that point, she's married to a lovely American guy. She's living in New York. She's a writer. But it sort of follows how their lives sort of run alongside each other and keep intertwining every so often. And the fact that they are probably soulmates and maybe in another life they were together because they have this like really strong connection, and in this life they're just not meant to be. It's just never going to work with how their lives are. And doesn't mean she doesn't love her husband. She's very much in love with her husband, who's a really sweet guy, and actually goes out for dinner with them at one point, and he's really welcoming to him and says, please come back, please come see us, like, you know, you guys are childhood best friends. They're open to staying in each other's lives. But it's sort of just this journey about how sometimes people have such a profound impact on your life but are not supposed to be constantly in your life, and what those big sort of canon moments of what if mean. And it was beautiful. It was beautifully written, directed. The music was excellent. Like Greta Lee was just stunning in this movie. She was so great. And honestly, I would highly recommend it to everybody. You sit and you watch this beautiful story unfold, but it's also just completely heartbreaking because just of how life turned out, they can't really be in each other's lives the way they would like it to be. And that's just really sad. It's really sad, but just beautifully tragic. And I would really like to do some more research on it to see sort of what the semi-autobiographical parts of it about Celine Song's life is. She is obviously Korean herself. She immigrated to America, but it'd just be really interesting. It's a beautiful story, and I honestly 5 stars. 5 stars, and would highly recommend to anyone who enjoys sort of that style of film. So get on that. 5 stars. 5 stars. Highly recommend. Probably one of my favorites that I've watched this year. Moving on, we're going to talk about a Greta Gerwig film. love Greta Gerwig. I really didn't appreciate her enough when Little Women came out, because I was such a big fan of the 90s one. We watched that a lot growing up. The Winona Ryder, Christian Bale, Little Women, and that was such a big film in my household. So we watched it a lot. And Little Women is one of my sister's favorite books. So we all kind of, when this new version came out, we all went to see it. And I think it was just quite different to that other version. So I didn't really enjoy it the first time I watched it. And then I went back. The more I sort of, all the actresses that are in that film, and the more I watched so much of their stuff and sort of understood these actresses a little bit more and their style of acting and Greta Gerwig's style of directing, I went back and rewatched it and was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, you watch that dialogue, the dialogue she wrote is just stunning, but also the fact that she dresses as close to the time period or in the theme of what she's directing at the time, so that she's really engrossed in it. I love that about her, and I'm very excited for, like, I love the Chronicles of Narnia, big fan. So I'm very excited for the TV show when it comes out. Greta Gerwig's TV show. I know there's some controversial conversations going on about that. I don't care. I'm excited about it. If Meryl Streep genuinely is the voice of Aslan, here for it. Here for it. God could be a woman. God could be anyone. You don't know. Well, that's a bit controversial to go into, but like, we're not going there. Anyway, that was sort of a sideway topic. We're talking about the movie Frances Ha. This movie came out in 2012, and it was co-written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, who actually he directed it, and she started it. So she stars as Frances, who's a 27-year-old struggling dancer in New York, and it follows her struggles of trying to figure out what she wants, and how at 27 she's just sort of not where she thought she would be. She's struggling, she's broke, she keeps jumping around different places. Her only real constant is her best friend. And she's odd and quirky and probably highly likely neurodiverse, this character. Like, she's just odd. Like, she talks odd. Like, just the way she is portrayed is very awkward and weird. And she's just in all these, no matter what social situation she's in, she's just awkward and weird. And she was so relatable in the way that she's a good dancer. She's in a company, like, sort of as a, what's she calling them, an intern or an associate, like, sort of at a lower level. But the woman who runs the company is constantly telling her, like, you're an excellent choreographer, like, you should pursue that. You're probably not going to, like, she's like trying to gently push her in that direction, because she's like, that's where you shine. You're not really, like, you're a good dancer, you're not a great dancer. You're not going to end up where you want to. She was trying to just be honest about, like, you're probably not going to get where you want to go here, but if you just sidestep slightly, you could be fantastic. And I just thought it was actually very interesting, because obviously Greta Gerwig sort of co-wrote this, but it is before she sort of moved more into the directing side of it. But I feel like that does kind of follow a little bit of Greta Gerwig's timeline, because she did start as like a comedian and actress, and has sort of, and she was good. She's very good. I wouldn't say she's great, but she's very good. But as a director, she's phenomenal. She just took a slight sidestep in the same industry and soared. And that's kind of the format of this film as well. It's really interesting in the way it's directed, in the way it's shot. It's all in black and white. And it follows Frances' struggle to, it's another film where it's these three films, not Zero Dark 30, but the other three films, really follow these women's journeys of thinking they're looking for romantic love, or that they're going to find sort of what they're missing from a romantic love, but actually finding that sort of piece of themselves and that fulfillment through their friendships. So in Frances Ha, she does this quite famous monologue now where she's talking about how you dream of that one person where you look across you're in a crowded room with other people and you look across at them and you just know that it's just the two of you, and you've also got this little private world and this little private conversation between you and your person. And as it turns out, what she discovers is that she has that in her best friend. So at one point they sort of drift apart, and because she's falling in, like, the best friend's falling in love and taking all those classic steps of what you're supposed to be, like classic, societal steps of, she falls in love with a guy, he's got a good job, they move in together, he's a lot more traditional, and not very quirky. And in the process of her doing that, her best friend loses herself a little bit and also loses Frances, and they drift apart. And it's sort of their journey, like her journey to Frances to find herself, but also she tries dating and tries different things. There's several like random pop-ups of people in 2011 before they were like massively big, like Adam Driver, and what's it, Michael Zagan, who is the husband in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. He's Joel in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It also has Grace Gummer, who is Meryl Streep's daughter. And they all are in these little pop-up roles. Tiny, like, not tiny necessarily, like Adam Driver and Michael Zagan are like probably secondary characters, but like there's just all these random people who pop up as like little cameos, and you're just like, and it was all before, it's like probably filmed 2011, so it's before any of them blew up. All of these people were quite small at this time, sort of just getting first jobs very early on, and now so many of them are like huge stars. And so it just goes to show what this, like, sometimes like little indie films are to the start of people's careers. But I found this film very relatable. As like an act 27, I really was pursuing acting. I wasn't really sure what I like, which I've never quite stopped, I guess. I'm always doing something, but like I've also done a sidestep, like, and done more producing stuff and sort of like cabaret direction and things, and finding that I love that too, and I'm quite good at that as well. So it was a very sort of relatable film. I just found Frances very relatable, but it was a really great film. I don't know if that was a little confusing to follow my train of thought there, but it was a great movie. It was just a process of this woman going on a journey of how to find herself and where she fits, and finding those people who will stick around in your person, and that person doesn't have to be a romantic person. And I really enjoyed that. So again, highly recommend Frances Ha. I probably would give it 4. I don't think I would give it 5 like Past Lives, but I definitely would still give it a very solid 4, maybe even 4.5 stars. Like it was a great film. Okay, moving on to Zero Dark 30. I'm not going to talk about this very much. I didn't particularly enjoy it. It was good. Like, it's a great, if you're looking at all of the different parts of cinematography and what makes a film, it would be classified as a great film. And I can appreciate that. It's just not necessarily my type of film. Catherine Bigelow does an actually amazing job of this movie. It follows Jessica Chastain as a CIA analyst who goes to the Middle East after 9/11 and joins the team on the search for bin Laden. And it follows her across the 10 years of that process. She's one of the only constants in that time. It is based around true facts, but there have also been a few people like have come out and been like, that's false information. So some stuff was dramatized or added in for dramatic effect. And Jessica Chastain's character isn't based on one particular person. Apparently, she was a bit. The character was an amalgamation of multiple different women who from the CIA who worked on this task force. Look, it's a very confronting film. It's done very honestly in terms of the way it's like there's scenes of and there's like some very intense stuff. Doesn't shy away from any of the really sort of dark sides of what happens during war. Um, but it also what I liked is it did paint the Middle Eastern characters as bad. It's like I don't know, it sort of portrayed the whole thing as a bit grey on both sides. It was really confronting the way it was done. I was like, I don't know if I needed to watch that. Like, I'm glad I did because obviously Catherine Bigelow, first female director to win an Oscar. So I am glad that I watched it in that sense, but I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot. One of the things I did like was that the Americans were not, and like the people as part of the army, I guess it was the army, whatever they were classified as, like especially the Zero Dark 30 task force, they were not presented as necessarily as heroes. They were treating themselves as heroes after they took out Martin. However, you kind of like that whole bit at the end is kind of sort of formulated in a way to give you the ick, and is because it was interesting. The task force was played by it was like Joel Edgerton, Chris Pratt, Taylor Kinney, Callan Mulney. Yeah, I think that's his name. Who's also in um, Captain America 2 as one of the bad guys. But the whole, yeah, the way these guys were formatted, like, I guess, and played was when they got back, they were rejoicing. They were like, being like, yeah, we're like, so, like, we did it, we're amazing. But then you saw also the side of the people. So there was a man on the task force who was of Middle Eastern descent. There was also Jessica Chastain's character, and you saw both sides of it. These guys celebrating, but then these other people being like, "That was like horrific. Like that was we did it, but that was not. That was awful. Like it was really awful." And so that's what I did kind of like about Catherine Bigelow's choice of direction is that she didn't paint anyone as the hero necessarily. Probably still obviously aimed at America being the US being the heroes, but not entirely like making them out that way. You still got the ick several times. And the one bit I really did like was the very last scene of Jessica Chastain's character leaving the Middle East after 10 years. She boards this, this massive plane to leave, and it's just her and a close up shot on her face and watching everything that's happened for the last 10 years and taking her actually out of the space and watching her sort of process that. No dialogue, no nothing, just a close up of Jessica Chastain's face for like 2 minutes, like watching her brain process everything that had happened, and that was excellent. The acting there, the directional choices, that was stunningly good. So you felt every single minute of it. So that would probably be the bit I did enjoy from it. I will not watch The Hurt Locker. I will not watch. There's apparently another film coming out that they're sort of like saying it was like the end of her like war trilogy films. Look, I'm probably not going to watch another one. Not going to lie. It's not for me. It's not for me. Just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's not good. But it's not for me. So, yeah, look. From a cinematography point of view, I probably should give it like a 4. For Emily's choice of movies, I'd probably give it a 2. Yeah, I don't want to watch it again. I don't want to watch anything like that again. It was so confronting, especially where we are in the world. I don't need to be thinking about it. When I'm watching movies to escape. I hear about all the other stuff everywhere else, which is important. It's very important, but just keep it out of my movies for now. I want to escape when I watch a good film. And saying that, let's move to our last film. We're talking about Under the Tuscan Sun. I actually loved this film. It was so good. It's from 2003. I love good early noughts, like sort of romantic comedy style film. And it was just really unexpected because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be about. So, if you haven't heard about it, Under the Tuscan Sun is Diane Lane, and she's a 35-year-old writer who gets divorced, and her husband takes everything, which is awful because she's sitting in a lawyer's office, and she's talking about how she brought all the assets she brought all the assets into this marriage, and he never really worked, and she was basically supporting him, and he cheated and took half of everything, maybe even a bit more. He took the house that she bought, designed. Made me so angry. I was like, how dare you? Audacity. Anyway, obviously for the plot, the point of the plot. Anyway, she basically gets divorced, loses half of everything, sells her house, and ends up on a gay tour through Tuscany. Her 2 best friends, which are played by Kate Walsh and Sandra Oh. Love a Grey's cameo. So they're a lesbian couple who are planning for a baby, and they're supposed to be going on this gay tour of Tuscany. And anyway, Sandra Oh ends up pregnant, so they can't go, they don't want to fly. So they end up giving the tickets to Diane Lane's character. And in the process of that, she's on this tour and goes through Tuscany, and they stop in this tiny town, and basically she falls in love with this old Tuscan villa, decides not to get back off, or jumps off the bus basically while it's moving, gets them to stop the bus, gets off, and decides to purchase this villa and bring it back to life. And in the process of that, she does end up having a bit of a romantic fling, which you think is going to go somewhere, but doesn't quite get there. But in the process of her fixing up this villa, she ends up finding her family. It's a found family, like 2000s rom-com, basically, which we love. We love that. She finds her family within all the different people a few people who live in this tiny little town. The mayor, this fantastic older woman who is just like absolutely like dripping in luxury, but is just this wiser, older female character for Diane Lane's character. And she finds a family in these I think they're Ukrainian, like laborers who she hires to help her like do the villa up. And Sandra Oh's character ends up like coming over like 6 months pregnant because Kate Walsh characters left her, decided she didn't want a baby and left her. How dare? How dare? But in the process, she moves to Tuscany with them and they stay there. And it's just, honestly, it's in a beautiful setting. It has a beautiful message. There is a whole, again, the whole overall arching, the whole story arc, that's where I was trying to go, of this film is her trying to find herself, but thinking in the process of finding herself, she will find the love of her life. But turns out the love of her life are her friends and her family that she creates. And she's sort of getting all these, I think at one point there's like a Hail Mary, like above her bed in this tiny villa. And she thinks that these signs she's getting are leading her to this man who she does have a fling with, this gorgeous Italian man. But they can't seem to actually see each other, and in the process he just gives up and starts seeing someone else. By the time she actually gets to see him, he's like with someone else, and he's like, we had a great weekend together at one point and then we couldn't see each other, so he's like, I moved on. Like, anyway, it's a whole other thing. But yeah, it was a really fun, beautiful movie, classic 2000s vibes. And again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can't believe I've never seen it before. I love a good 2000s movie. It was right up my alley back in 2008, 2009. I was what, 12 when it came out, so I was probably a bit young for it when it came out. But at the same time, yeah, I can't believe I've never seen it. I loved it. It was great. It was classic. And as it turns out, didn't know that I was just doing research before. One, that it was written and directed by a woman. Her name was Audrey Wells. And Diane Lane was nominated for a Golden Globe for it. She was nominated for Best Actress in a comedy or musical genre. Like, crazy. The things you find out as you do more research. So, anyway, again, thoroughly enjoyed that film. Highly recommend. Probably give it a 4, maybe 4.5 stars. Just a enjoyable movie. And if you want something easy and light, set in Europe, beautiful, Italian men, stunning backdrop, super relatable now that I am 34. And when she was ended up on a gay tour around Europe, I just was like, whew. I was like, I would thoroughly enjoy that. I would love to go on I was keep going to say gay cruise, but on a gay tour around Tuscany, accidentally fall out by a Tuscan villa and fall in love with a beautiful Italian man. Ooh! I mean, isn't that every woman's dream these days? That just sounds divine. Turn that into an Airbnb. Sounds stunning. Sounds perfect. Who's coming with me? Let's do it. Anyway, that's that. So those are the four of the films that I've watched over the last few months. We do still have several to catch up on. I just watched a new movie, which I'm going to add as one of the movies that I watched, because honestly, it was like a little indie French film called Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. Mostly French language film. Really enjoyed it. Watched that last night. That just came out on Prime. I've watched Hunchback of Notre Dame for the first time, which is crazy that we never really watched that growing up, and everyone's always raved about it. I've watched, what else have I watched? Spirited Away, which I have things to say about that, and I'm going to get such hate for how I felt about that movie. And what else did we watch? Plenty of other things. I watched The Favourite finally because I just absolutely adore Olivia Colman and Emma Stone. Adore those women. And that movie was so weird and quirky, so we'll talk about that eventually. There's a couple of more on there that we need to talk about. We're going to get around to it eventually. Hopefully before the end of the year. We've got to try and get all of these out before the end of the year. We can do this. We're coming into the Christmas season. There's 3 Christmas movies I've never watched that I've added to the list, so that'll be December. But we're going to get there. It's going to happen. So, anyway, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed my ADHD ramblings on these movies. I thoroughly enjoyed watching films that have a strong female hand in them, and I hope you did too. If you have any other suggestions of, movies in this field that I should add onto my list or should watch, please pop it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, share it out to your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you continue to watch as I make my chaotic journey through these movies. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this film. I hope you enjoyed this film. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'm going to see you next time on The Creative Spark. I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.